Hello, everyone. This is Dr. David Pascal from the Pascal Health Institute in Cary, North Carolina. I would like to welcome you all to this Facebook Live. I am here 2 times a month, every other week, on Tuesdays at 2 o'clock East Coast time, where we are covering various different topics regarding complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS. And today we're going to talk about how you can advocate for yourself when you are talking to your medical doctor or your healthcare provider and you're beginning to feel misunderstood or dismissed. This is a very common experience for most people that have CRPS. There are a multitude of reasons for that. Uh, None, the least of which is that we are dealing with a lot of egos when you are talking to your doctors and you are presenting with something that can't be proved in a physical sense because you're experiencing pain. There's no lab test that shows that. There's no MRI that shows that. There's no x-ray that shows that. There's no nerve conduction study that shows that. Quite often the history is from a medical context out of line with the amount of pain that you have with CRPS. And so there is a number of obstacles to overcome. So let's start maybe at the beginning, and that is with the doctor's ego. You know, I'm just finishing my 39th year in practice. I feel like I'm pretty calm and grounded, but still, every once in a while, a patient will say something either with their words or their tone that just for whatever reason, I'm having a bad day, it kind of strikes me, and then I become defensive, which is kind of ridiculous given the 50 years I've been studying to be a doctor and all my years of experience. But it happens. With medical doctors, that is 100 or 1,000x that. You know, they feel that they are the experts of all things. And when you challenge them, they immediately become very defensive. So you're coming in, you're trying to describe something that most of them have never seen before. Uh, you're fortunate if they've even heard of complex regional pain syndrome. And you say, hey, I sprained my ankle or I broke a bone in my foot, which they've seen hundreds of thousands of times in their career. And then you say, uh, and my pain is off the chart horrible. And they are like, that doesn't make any sense because we've seen this 100,000 times and people will have pain right when they have their trauma, but then it will subside. And you're coming in going, no, this is awful, terrible. I don't understand. Maybe you're at a point early on where no one has told you you have CRPS. All you know is that you're going off of these symptoms of terrible pain. And the doctor is going to say, well, how do you do that? You're going to tell them, they're going to say that just doesn't make any sense. And then they're going to almost immediately put you in the category of either a drug seeker or someone that is overly dramatic or someone that is trying to get a bunch of attention, right? Because you also have some kind of mental health issues from their viewpoint. So to the extent that you can know this when you're going in, let's say you haven't even seen a medical doctor yet, but somehow you stumbled across my video that you're watching, and you're looking for tips to set you up to go into your very first encounter with a MD or pain clinic, or you've already been to 1, 5, 50 healthcare providers and they all do that shtick of theirs where they are all knowing and you are just some person that is either in need of significant mental health or is just trying to pull one over on them and get drugs. I'm, it's lousy that that's the system, but that's how it is. That's how the majority of MDs are from the feedback that I've gotten, that they just don't believe that you could have this kind of pain. And so, to the extent that you can be aware that doctors have very fragile egos, and if you go counter to what they say or to what their expectation is, they're just not going to listen to you anymore. They're going to become very defensive and aggressive for the most part. Not every doctor, of course. We're not talking about every doctor, but we're talking about the most common experience that people with CRPS have. So I'm here to give you some tips. When you are going to talk to a medical doctor, it's always best to, I know it's a show and I know it's not fair, but to the extent that you can play into their ego and still get the advice that you need. Go in and say, hey doc, I don't understand. Don't come in and say, hey, I searched Google and Dr. Google says I have CRPS, or I went to, my massage therapist and they say I have CRPS, or I went to anybody or my neighbor. Just say, you know, hey doc, I need some help. That's going to start to shift them back to their main purpose. They all became doctors to help. So you're going to appeal to that. Hey doc, nice to meet you. I need some help. I don't understand what's going on. I didn't used to have a problem, and then I was playing soccer and I tripped and I broke a bone in my foot and it hurt really bad. And I went to the ER, or whatever your story is, right? I'm just giving you an example. And it hurt bad, and they took an x-ray, and thank goodness nothing was broken, uh, or maybe something was broken, and they gave me a cast or a boot. And when I went home, instead of the pain going down, it got worse. And I don't understand why my pain got worse, but I went back to the ER. They took another x-ray. They said, yeah, this looks normal, like we've already seen 100,000 times. um, we just take more pain meds or whatever, but they said whatever they said. And then you still have your pain. So now you're going off to this next doctor and you're trying to get some advice. So your approach to them is laying out your story, but laying out your story not like you know anything, which hopefully you do. I mean, you certainly know your symptoms, right? Um, but saying, appealing to their need to, or their desire to help others. I don't understand why this happened. I can't explain it. I have horrible, awful pain. I took the drugs that they told me, or I did the rest, or I did whatever, they told me to do, and still the pain is awful. Why do you think that is? What do you think is going on? So by starting that way, you're making them kind of focus, right? When you're asking them a question, then they have to kind of not be off in Dr. La La Land. They have to, and be kind of dismissive. They have to kind of really focus on what you're saying. So then they may be dismissive at that point. They go, yeah, this is just nothing, da da da. Then you can say, hey, yeah, I totally understand that. Again, you want to get agreement with the doctor. You, no matter what they say, you can say you understand. You don't agree with them, right? You don't have to verbalize that. I understand what you're saying. Yes, this shouldn't be a big deal. Yes, the pain seems weird, or yes, I understand that you feel like I don't have as much pain as I do. However, I have this question. I don't understand. I do feel this super high pain, and I've tried these other things. Is there some possible condition that could explain this? You know, could it be, like I've heard people talk about, CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, or if they're an older doctor, you may have to say RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, and then see how they respond to that. If they go off and they're super dismissive at that point, then we have a problem, right? You're seeing the wrong doctor, someone that isn't even willing to entertain something outside of their original thoughts. And then you can just realize you're wasting your time and finish up and say, okay, yeah, thank you. Or you can say, well, why don't you think it's CRPS? how, or, the other part you can say is, well, I totally understand that you don't think this is complex regional pain syndrome, and that you think that I may just be, overly emotional because of all of the pain. And hopefully that's all it is. That would be great. But may I ask you a question, right? That's always another good way to handle it. You ask for permission to ask a question. May I ask you a question, doc? And then they're going to say, yeah, sure, what? You go, well, if it was, I know you don't think that it is, but if it was CRPS, then how would you go about handling that? So then they're going to either, become all defensive, in which case you just can't deal with that person, or they're going to go, well, like I said, I'm 100% sure that it isn't, and so we're just wasting our time going down this road, in which case, again, you're with the wrong doc. Or they're going to go, all of this is going to make them pause and then say, oh, yeah, well, let me think about that. Well, if it was CRPS, then I would do XYZ. Now you have a doctor that's willing, even though they had an original viewpoint that was contrary to believing that you have or may have complex regional pain syndrome. Now they're at least willing to entertain the possibility. And that's a sign of a doctor that can move off of a fixed thought or position. Now you have a chance with that doc. So then they're going to say, well, yeah, if it was CRPS, then your options are this, this, and this. And then you can start a conversation, open conversation, where you're going back and forth to find what they feel is the right type of therapy or the right place for you to be. If it's an ER or a general practitioner or an ortho or a neuro, usually they're going to refer you out to a pain clinic, because in the medical world, when someone has terrible pain, the person that is handling that is um, is a pain clinic, right? So I have lost the screen a moment. We'll see if I can get back to it. Somewhere. Danielle, can you see me? Good. Ah, all right. So we're good. Danielle says we're good. Ah, there we go. My screen is back. All right. So usually in the medical world, then they are going to say, let's send you off to a pain clinic, and now you're going to go into the pain clinic and you're going to do the same thing. Hey, do you think I have CRPS? Why do you think I have CRPS? What are your approaches to CRPS? What's your time frame for CRPS? If I'm not getting better to your first suggestion, at what point do you go to your second suggestion? And when you go to your third suggestion, and if none of those things are working, then what are my options? So really open, honest communication with your healthcare provider in a way that is non-threatening for them. It's a sad point that it has to be non-threatening for them when you are the person with the problem, right, in this horrible pain. But for you to get answers that are beneficial to you, we have to play this game for many clinics. So I hope this helps. If you need more assistance, if you're having difficulty, or if you'd like to schedule a Zoom call with me to talk about complex regional pain syndrome, then we should have a link below where you can either text, email, or call my office. You can always Google me. You can go to our website, which is drpascal.com. Our phone number, 919-380-8000. We do Zoom consultations at no charge, because we're trying to help as many people as we can. So I hope you find this beneficial, and I look forward to giving you any other help or support that I can. All right, take care.